Hello and welcome to another video, and this one is going to be about a game that I just beat. Now, I used to have a series about this. I used to have an intro, I used to have a song, and I guess the song went like this.
I just beat this game, so how was it?
But, some of my old intros weren't the best. So what game is it? It was Gran Turismo on the PS1. This is the original Gran Turismo, which, compared to new ones, very limited and very different. So what is this game like playing now? Well, the graphics don't bother me at all. Yeah, they look kind of dated, but they're not really that bad. I mean, the cars look pretty good compared to some of the racing games from the time period. It doesn't just look like a polygon shell with painted on headlights. They actually look pretty decent. Now, the gameplay is where it kind of suffers a little bit. It's by no means terrible, but it's a little difficult to get the hang of some of what it considers correct driving techniques. So one of the biggest things I noticed with this game was when you brake, it randomly decides, like, oh, we're going to kick the back end out now, which I understand what it's trying to do, but it doesn't feel realistic. You know, if you're steering into a corner and braking full, which it's digital control, so you're either full throttle or no throttle. Same with brake, full brake, no brake. The steering, you can use an analog stick, so there is a little bit of control there, but the gas and the brake, it's 100% or 0%. So when you're going into a corner and you're trying to brake, and then all of a sudden the whole back end comes around, and then you're going into a wall out of nowhere, it takes a little bit to get used to it. So outside of that, the gameplay, you have arcade mode and you have simulation mode, which has always been kind of a staple of Gran Turismo. I did play through both. I played through a normal difficulty for arcade mode, because all the guides I read online said, yeah, you unlock everything just by doing it on normal mode. You don't have to do it on difficult mode. There's no reason to do that mode. Well, I found out after the fact, yes, there is. You don't unlock the hi-fi mode unless you do it on difficult. But you also unlock hi-fi mode in simulation. So it's kind of like, I didn't unlock it twice, but I consider this game complete at this point, because I don't really want to unlock it twice, because the AI is very primitive. In arcade mode, the more races you win, suddenly the AI is just that much better than you. So, like, in the first few races, I would just be, half a lap ahead of people with no issue whatsoever, no matter what car I picked. But by the time I was coming to the last few races in arcade mode, they were right behind me. I could pick the fastest of each class, because you have to beat A, B, and C class. I can pick the fastest of each class, and they'll start throwing in cars from the class above you, and then expecting you to win. Which some people have done tests, and they said that the cars in arcade mode are overpowered compared to the cars in simulation mode, and I can say, yeah, because there are some cars that I've crossed over, and the ones in arcade mode, suddenly they have more grip, they accelerate faster, everything's just better. And you get in simulation mode, and you think, oh, I'm going to be able to do this in this car, and you realize, no, you're not going to do that. One of the ones that I remembered the most of that was the Honda Civic, the 3-door hatchback one. It was great in arcade mode. I went to use it in simulation mode, fully tuned, and I could barely win a race. So in simulation mode, in this game, you have 3 licenses. You have B class, A class, and International A class, which the license tests weren't super hard. International A, you have to do full laps of every track, basically, and that was probably the hardest part. The Autumn Ring track. I couldn't tell you how many times I played through it, because the only cars they give you for the International A, you're either running a Viper or you're running a TVR. I think it's the Griffith 400 or 500, whatever it is. It's not the Suburra, it's the middle model. And that thing just doesn't handle it all, and it makes it so hard on that track. And yeah, it took me a while to get past that, but once I did, then I kind of had like a clear path of where I was going. Of course, you pick your first car. It's kind of up in the air what you do for your first car. There's no big deal there. But then what you want to do, at least in my opinion, is get yourself a Mitsubishi GTO and max it out. Don't turn it into a race car yet, because there's a lot of races that you need to do before you flip it into a race car. There's even one of the endurance races where it can't be a race car, and I found that out the hard way. Now, there are a few races you'll need some other cars. It is good to have a regular Viper GTS because of the non-tuned, like, stock race that you have to do. The other car that really surprised me, there is the Dodge concept car, the red one, which is lower power, not that great. You can win that early on. And then there's either the purple or the yellow one that you can win. And I don't think they programmed that car correctly, because suddenly it only weighs 1,300 pounds with 500 plus horsepower. The thing, it will blow anything away. Even the fully tuned GTOs, the Skylines that have 900 horsepower. The other thing, the concept car is going to blow it away because the acceleration is instant. It's not turbo, so there's no turbo lag. You're just flying off the line, and the top speed, if you tune the gearbox correctly, you can get it over 200 miles an hour, and there's very few tracks where you're ever going to hit that. And if you do, you're only going to hit it for a few seconds. So the fact the GTO and the Skylines can do 240, it doesn't matter, because by the time you hit about 210, you're going to hit a wall. So then you need to slow down. So the only problem with that car is, because I don't think it was programmed correctly, by default, you can't drive it. You start to drive, and the suspension is tuned in a way where it skids across the road, because the game does not know how to handle it. Here's the red version right there, in case you wonder what it looks like. The game doesn't know how to handle the car. So you're trying to accelerate, and it's going like that, and you see the RPM just going like this the whole time, and you never really get anywhere. I had to look up guides, and they say you have to lower. You really have to go crazy with the tuning of the suspension. I don't remember all the specifics, but if you get that right, then suddenly you unlock the full potential of the car, and the thing just flies past everything else. It almost is too powerful for what it's really supposed to be, and it's a crazy car. I used it for one of the endurance races, the one that's on Special Stage Route 11, the forward direction. The reverse direction, I didn't know you couldn't use a racing car. It considers that one a racing car, and I had already flipped my GTO over to being a racing car. So I had to do that one with a fully tuned but not flipped to racing model Skyline, which I don't care for the Skyline nearly as much. It doesn't handle as well. It doesn't have the sixth gear, so it kind of maxes out at a lower mile per hour. But yeah, I did the GTO on the Grand Valley, the one that takes an hour and a half, and then I did the concept car, or it was also called Copperhead originally, and then I did the Skyline for the last endurance race. And I can tell you, I hate endurance races. I was glad there was only 3, because if I ever play through any of the further on games and there's more than 3, I'm not going to do them, because they're honestly just annoying. After so many laps of the same thing, and it could have been just the weird physics of this, because I did also notice that when I started the endurance race with the concept car, all of a sudden it was stuttering again. It couldn't, when it went into 6th gear, it couldn't accelerate. I was maxing the thing out at 180 miles an hour, and then suddenly, when the tires were starting to wear down, as soon as they went from green to just a little bit of yellow, suddenly I had grip again, and then I was full blast. So the physics in this game, they're okay, but they don't really hold up as great as modern games. Now, all that being said, is it still worth playing? Yeah. But is it worth doing everything? Maybe not. Technically, you only have to finish 4 races. If you do the GT series, the 4 cups in the GT series, you get the credits, you get GT Hi-Fi mode. You don't really even have to do the special events, but they're worth playing. Maybe skip the endurance races, maybe skip arcade mode, unless you really want to race a 67 Corvette, which I think this is why it's my favorite car, because it was originally in here. But you don't have to do that mode either. You really don't have to do very much of this game to finish it. But yeah, I finally finished it after all these years. I've always played most of it and then stopped, and I finally forced myself to just complete it. And yeah, if you haven't tried it, it's worth at least checking out, and I'll see you in the next one.